Are you looking to become a mensch?
Welcome to the Mensch Podcast, the show that guides and inspires Jewish youth and turns them into change makers. Today, we're exploring what it means to connect Jewish teens to their heritage, their identity, and the land of Israel, even when the world around them feels complicated and uncertain.
Joining us today is Lara Walklet, the Teen Engagement Manager at the Oshman Family JCC in Palo Alto.
Lara brings over 15 years of experience in Jewish education as a teacher, program director, and Israel trip leader. She grew up in Berkeley, studied in Montreal and Jerusalem, and spent 4 years living in Israel. And that journey has deeply shaped the way that she works with teens today.
At the JCC, Lara creates and leads programs like the Prep Fellowship, which helps high schoolers build resilience, self-advocacy, and a strong Jewish identity, including workshops on recognizing and responding to anti-Semitism. She also works with Leap Year program, and which prepares teens for meaningful gap year experiences in Israel, and also leads the Teen Z3 Summit, where people explore Zionism, Jewish peoplehood, and their personal connection to Israel in fun and interactive ways.
So today we're going to talk about how to raise the next generation of proud, engaged Jewish teens. What's working and what's changed since October 7th, and what parents can do at home to keep that connection alive.
So with that, Lara, welcome to the Mensch Podcast.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Valentino. It's great to be here.
So what we first were wondering is, can you tell us about your journey growing up in Berkeley to studying in Montreal and Jerusalem, and then living in Israel for 4 years? And how do those experiences shape your passion for educating teens and on Jewish culture and Israeli life?
Okay, so yeah, I was born and raised in Berkeley. I feel very lucky to have grown up there. We had a very strong Jewish community growing up. In fact, I remember thinking that 30% of the United States was Jewish because there were so many Jewish people around me all the time. And I was also lucky that my parents decided to put me in a Jewish day school. It's no longer there. It's called Tahir Day School. That's where I got my Hebrew. I was put in a Hebrew speaking class from the time I was in first grade. So I learned Hebrew, and that gave me access to later continuing to study it in high school, and ultimately inspired my decision to move to Israel after college. I feel like the internet's not great, so sorry. I just want to make sure that you're still hearing me. When I went to Montreal, that was also kind of a random decision. I think I was just lucky that the year that McGill University was reaching out on the West Coast, that they came to Berkeley High, I was one of 5 people who showed up and met the out-of-breath French-Canadian guy who was like, "Here I am. Did you want to study in Canada?" And none of us really knew where Canada was on a map. I was kidding. And Montreal, I don't know if you know this, but it has a very large Jewish population. It has an English-speaking Jewish population of Canadians on the west side of the island, and then it has actually a Yiddish-speaking population of Jews on the east side of the island who are more religious. And it was very interesting for me to come to the East Coast, like the motherland of North American Jewish life. McGill University, where I studied, has the oldest Jewish studies department in the country. Well, not in the country, in North America. And I thought I was going to be a linguist. I was just taking Jewish studies classes for fun. And one day I looked at my transcript and I saw that I had the same number of credits in linguistics as I did in Jewish studies. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was taking this so seriously. This just seemed like my dessert. And in the end, it ended up being my major. So that's what led me to ultimately thinking in the direction of going to Israel. I call it reverse manifest destiny, that I started in California and ended up all the way in the Middle East. But I remember my graduation. There were also only 5 of us graduating Jewish studies. And Eugene Orenstein, who was the head of the department, called me up. I'm Walklet, so I was the last person to be called up. And he's like, "So what are you doing with your Jewish education degree?" And I was like, "I'm moving to a kibbutz, immigrating to Israel." And that was very different from the other 4 who were like, "Yes, we're going to go on and do our PhDs and whatnot." So I think it was a long journey. I didn't set out expecting to be, major in Jewish studies or a kibbutznik. But I would say my foundation at my Jewish day school and in my Berkeley Jewish community put me on that path without me even being conscious of it. Should we move? Do I need to move somewhere else because of the internet? Is it like really choppy?
It's a little laggy, but I think it should be fine. I think we hear you, so I think that's what matters.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting story. I like how you kind of like did the reverse, and like it kind of highlights how not everyone goes on like the same path, you know?
Definitely.
I also was kind of interested in how this, like, you said you moved to a kibbutz, or you planned on that. And then how did you go from having that plan to like being what you are now and working like with the JCC and with teens and stuff?
That's a really good question. I think when you graduate college, you're very much in the mindset of what you're going to do with your life and how you're going to live your life. And I really found the kibbutz life to be idyllic and beautiful. It was a slow pace. I felt very special that I could be sitting on my couch looking at the Sea of Galilee while groups of like French tourists would be walking by and being like, oh, look, there's a kibbutznik drinking her coffee, reading her paper. I loved walking around barefoot and imagining that I was, like I was living this very ideological lifestyle that everybody who joined the kibbutz movement or founded kibbutzim imagined, that they would be connected to the land, that they would be living, in an agricultural collective society. And so for me, that felt at the moment like, yeah, maybe this is really what I need to do with my life. Maybe being part of a community isn't just a word. Like maybe community is a real thing that nourishes and feeds a person. But if you've ever lived in a small town, which both of you don't, you live in the suburbs, but not in a very small town, you start to get limited in your social relationships. And then sometimes you might be like, okay, like I need to get into a bigger pool. And that is what pushed me in the direction of doing a master's degree in Jerusalem. I was a little bit snobby, I will admit, because having gone to the Harvard of Canada, I was like, I will only go to the best university in Israel. And at the time, Hebrew University was ranked the best. I'm sure somebody out there is from the Technion and is, shaking their fist at me, like, how dare you, say that you're better than us. But so that's what pushed me in that direction. And I figured that since I had a degree in Jewish studies, it made sense to do a degree in Jewish education. So I would have a career that could go with my clear interest in the topic. And so again, part of a cohort of 5 people majoring in doing a master's in Jewish education. And of course, after that, it just made sense to me to come back and give back to the community that cultivated this in me. I went back to teach at the school that I was raised in. All of my former teachers became my colleagues, and it felt like a homecoming and an opportunity for me to demonstrate as a role model, like, hey, you could start out as a non-Hebrew speaking American, just having a nice life and drinking Pete's coffee, not Starbucks, and then end up on this whole path that brings you back kind of ripe and cultured, if I will, and passionate about something that you didn't know when you started.
I think that's like a really cool point, and like it's kind of a theme that we see a lot with the youth as well today. It's like I think a lot of teens, especially in the Bay Area, with all the pressures they have from parents and just the societal pressures to go to a good college and follow a kind of cookie cutter path, it's like refreshing to see how you had different changes through your life and you like got new passions and you had new ideas of what you wanted to do compared to maybe what people right now think they have to have everything mapped out so early on. And kind of segueing off of this, but looking ahead, what new programs or ideas are you excited about the JCC to keep engaging Bay Area teens with Jewish and Israeli education?
Well, as you were just talking, Robbie, right now, I just remember a pivotal moment. If I can just roll the tape back for a second to when I was in college, you said like kind of being open to different changes and having so much pressure leading up to going to college of what your parents want you to do and that you're expected to do these things. And for me, I will never forget the moment that I walked out of my dorm the first day by myself, and I'm walking down the hill because Montreal is very hilly. And I get to the first, crosswalk, and I had this moment of like, I could go straight, I could go left, I could go right. My parents are not here telling me which way to go, what I need to do next. Like the semester hasn't started. I don't know who I am yet. I'm in this new city. And I think that's a little bit how I feel coming into this job here at the JCC, which I started a month before October 7th. I had been recently before that working as the director of Hebrew and Jewish Studies at Warnick Jewish Day School in Foster City. And it was an amazing school and an amazing opportunity to build a program much like the one that I was fortunate enough to grow up in. But coming into the JCC, my first role that they asked me to do was to talk to people about taking a gap year, about stepping out of that hamster wheel, about stepping away from the pressure of what people expect you to do and give yourself the gift of a year in an organized way. There are organized programs to choose if you're going right, if you're going left, if you're going straight. And that was my main hat. They're like, here, come consult with families. Like, that's it. And I had a gap year set up for October 25th. And then, of course, October 7th happened and everything was thrown on its face. I didn't know what was going on with Israel. It was an existential moment of like, is Israel going to make it? I really, as many people felt, was incredibly scared because this had never happened in my lifetime. And my supervisor said, clearly, Lara, this is not the time for you to keep wearing that hat of telling people to go to Israel because none of us know what's going on right now. This is like a repeat of the uncertainty that we had just had with COVID of like, I'd been planning an Israel trip for teens when the COVID summer was coming up and somebody wrote to me in February, right before COVID, and was like, are we still going on this trip? And I'm like, of course we're still going on this trip. Why wouldn't we? And little did I know that the world had changed. So too with, what happened in October 7th. So they said, instead, focus on the local. And so again, this is an opportunity for me to have this open playing field where, by the way, I mentioned COVID in the same breath because there hadn't been teens back on our campus since COVID. COVID kind of cut off the teen relationship with the JCC. We weren't seeing teens coming back after we reopened. And all of a sudden it was like, well, hello, we need somebody to create interesting things for teens to do if we expect them to come back. So that became my focus, not overseas, encouraging teens to go far away and try something new. It was like, what can I do here with the goal of them getting there when, God willing, they can, but right now in this moment, what can I do to help them prepare so that when things open up again, and that is an option for them, even if it's a junior year abroad, they feel like they're ready for it.
Yeah, I think that's really relatable, especially with me. I know, I was also planning on doing a summer trip to Israel to try and get more of my identity and just understand myself a little bit better. But
Yeah.
I also, I think, had to pivot. My parents didn't think it was safe enough with all the situations and the conflict going on with Iran and all that.
Yeah.
But I think that just shows how, as throughout your life, there are going to be roadblocks and you have to just do what you can best to try and navigate around them. And it's, I think, a really crucial part of your journey to just do what you can do best to try and still look at the positives of what you can.
I like that you call it a roadblock because really, again, if the destination is still there, if Israel is still there, there isn't one and only one time for you as a young Jewish person to go there and learn about it firsthand. There are many touch points and access points for you to do it. So I know how you were feeling when, that decision was made with your family. And I respect so many families who are in the same predicament right now of their teens or seniors. This is kind of their last chance to get that $3,000 voucher from Route One. So they kind of want to go, but on the other hand, safety is an utmost priority for everybody. So you might have missed this one opportunity, but I want to just person to person reassure you that there are other times that you will get to go, and pivoting is important.
Yeah, and if I could add on, my family is also gonna go this summer. I don't know like what program they were gonna do, but we were all gonna go, like just like a family trip, to Israel. And since there's like different conflicts going on there right now, that also got like deemed unsafe, so we're not gonna go this summer anymore, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But I think because of that, and because like so many families are unable to go to somewhere that like they're hoping that would connect them with their other Jewish like people and Jewish like identity. I think like what you do with the JCC is really important because it has community. Like for me, the prep fellowship, like it introduced me to like a bunch of new friends just for being there like or I think it was like once a month or once every few weeks. So I
Hmm.
think it's like really
Hmm.
important that the JCC and like all the JCC stuff exists in our like area, because the Jewish identity can be like really spread out, and the JCC like brings it together when you can't go to Israel or something like that. So I think that's also important. But I was also
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, sorry. No, I just wanted to add that like, there was a lag there for a second, but I wanted to say like that's the funny irony of how, for us as Jewish people, going far from California to Israel brings us close to community. But when that option is removed from us because of geopolitical situations, then we must remember that our community is also right here. It starts with our family. Our family is our community, and not looking at it as a total loss, looking at it as an opportunity to like reinvest in your relationships right here with your family or with your community at a place like the JCC.
Yeah, and I also wanted to circle back to what you were saying about like the gap years, and what you do with the JCC. And I just wanted to like for clarify for us, and also just like the other people watching, because everyone might be considering it, like what is a gap year, and like what is it intended to help people with, and how do we decide if we want or if we need a gap year for ourselves?
Amazing. Thank you for asking that question. I'm very passionate about it. Again, I didn't do a gap year, but I got to go to a university outside of the United States. So I feel like I got some of the perspective that I'm trying to offer people with the idea of a gap year. The purpose of a gap year is it's an organized program. We call it at the JCC a leap year because the word gap makes it sound like something's missing, but instead it's like leadership, education, action, peoplehood. You're jumping into something where instead of having academic pressure after 4 intense years of being in high school, you get to learn in the field. You get to learn by doing, you get to be in a different place. You're learning life skills by living with roommates. You're doing an internship, you're traveling a different country, and you're getting to have, usually, if it's in Israel, again, which is my expertise, you'll have some language classes and some topics with the people who are doing the gap year with you that relate to Jewish history, politics in Israel, general Jewish studies topics. So anybody who's listening to college, you must be completely crazy. The goal here is not to cancel college. The goal here is to fortify you with global perspective, with a chance to kind of mature a bit, quite frankly, and get interactions with people from all around the world in a place that's meaningful to Jewish people. If you choose Israel, there are, of course, gap years in other countries. And by the time you start college, then you come in a lot more prepared, and you're going to probably do better in college because you got all of those kind of growing pains out of the way in terms of living with other people and being more independent. So there are lots of organized gap year programs that exist. You can apply to college at the same time as you apply to a gap year, and then just ask your college to hold your spot. If you don't get into your top choice, this is also an amazing opportunity to reapply while you're on the gap year and say, hey, check it out. I didn't get in before. Look how dedicated I am to you, college A, and how I'm willing to show you that my experience now on this gap year is going to make me more prepared for your university.
I was also wondering about the prep fellowship. And yeah, I was part of it, but how did you design it and um, zone in on it to like teach and like help kids? Like what was going through your head? And what are your like main goals of teaching it and doing it, and giving it to so many kids?
So again, it was born out of necessity. Israel was under attack on October 7th. Gap year conversations immediately were paused. And I was doing what I was just saying before. I was doubling down on local community, not talking about a place that was far away. The way I designed it was I was thinking, yes, I have a master's in Jewish education, but I'm trying to bring together a kibbutz galuyot, which in Hebrew, it's like a gathering of people from different high schools, from different grades, and create a community with teens that also represent different experiences. And so wouldn't it make sense for me to be bringing in experts, or not just me talking, but people who really have an expertise in different areas that could be useful to teens. I assume that I share with other Jewish educators and educators in general who work with teens the desire to bring you guys things that are relevant and not redundant. And I know high schools in our area are amazing and have added in classes. Like when I was in high school, it was called social living, which talk about like how to function in the world. It's at least a requirement at Berkeley High. I don't know about at your high schools. So it's not like you're completely ignorant to how to function in society. As you go through high school, also, you become more and more independent. So everything that I was bringing in, I was hoping would leave each teen after every session with a toolkit of like, okay, we're talking today about healthy relationships. Can we go at a deeper level than just those 30 minutes that I have in my social living class at high school? Can we talk about what toxic friendships are? Can we talk about romantic relationships? Can we talk about domestic violence? All these things that like we don't usually make time for in our day-to-day academic programs, and maybe our parents are afraid to talk to us about them. And then at the end of the session, you have also another contact that's not just me, another trusted adult. I strongly believe it's important for every teen, every child, honestly, to have at least 3 trusted adults who they can go to who are not their parents. So that's how I modeled it. And I like giving some credit to these amazing organizations, many of which are Jewish organizations in our community, doing incredible work, but not always having access to the population that they're trying to help. So whenever I reached out to a partner organization, they were like, great, we want to talk to more teens. We just don't know where they are. We don't know where you guys are. We know you're at high school, but then you're kind of a mystery. So that's how I tried to model it. And the focus, the goals of the program are, it's kind of like a focus on me. How can I know like who I am? How can I live in community? Like how do I feel good about myself? Mental well-being, physical well-being. I offered a free gym membership to people who were in the program because again, your mental health and your physical health go together and I want you to hang out at the JCC. So how do I feel good about myself? How do I live in community with others, again, in anticipation of moving to a new place and meeting new people? And how do I advocate for myself? Because obviously there are going to be problems. And the problem du jour was anti-Semitism right after October 7th. And so that became our focus in the first year of like, okay, how do I advocate for myself if I'm experiencing antagonism from people who I thought were my friends or people who are, teachers in my school, for instance? Like, what's the best approach? When do I need to do something about it? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially after October 7th. The impact was, I think, super profound and really impacted a lot of teenagers and adults and just, I think, anyone in really the Jewish community especially. Building off of that, how do you think the Prep Fellowship, what was one of maybe your favorite workshops, or what was maybe a key moment where you saw its impact on maybe the students involved?
I don't want to pick favorites because I do appreciate the flow of everything. I think everybody who brought a topic is passionate about what they brought, and it's really important to hear from a multitude of voices. I would say feedback from the surveys and feedback from talking to participants in the fellowship always said that the FBI, it's actually not the FBI, it's the Department of Homeland Security workshop on how to be aware online was actually one of the most powerful workshops for people, because there's an assumption that teenagers born in a digital age know everything that there is to know about this computer thing and the internet connected to it. And yet there are so many bad actors out there who are specifically targeting teens and trying to hurt teens or encourage teens to hurt themselves. And so this workshop with incredibly dynamic people who work in this field day in and day out, was very insightful for a lot of people. I know I turned on a filter on my iPhone even after the first time I had the workshop of like, you can blur photos that are sent to your, that are texted to you before you open them in case some random person is sending you gross photos. So that workshop, does that sound like it would be part of the prep fellowship for helping Jewish people and non-Jewish people, navigate life after high school? Probably not the first thing that would come to your mind, but it shows you that the Jewish Community Center here cares about helping people be prepared to be safe. So that's a workshop that I felt was very efficient, effective, and engaging.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. I don't remember. I did it a while ago, but I think all the ones I was at, it really like opened my eyes to new things that I hadn't thought of, because I was a sophomore, I think, and I just like hadn't thought of what I was going to do after high school, and how I was going to live on my own. So it really taught me how to be more independent, I think.
I remember you in the workshop about how to have tough conversations, because we did a lot of scenarios where we were talking about like, if you're having a heated conversation with a person, whether it's a parent or somebody at school who's coming at you, like how do you kind of take the heat out of the conversation? And I feel like that was another one that a lot of teens said to me was really helpful, and then they were immediately able to apply.
Yeah.
You might not remember it though. You're like, that was a long time ago.
I don't know.
It's all good.
But I wanted to say, like, beyond structured programs, I know you run events like community service days or casual hangouts, and I wanted to ask, how do these help the younger kids or families get introduced to Jewish values and Israeli stories?
Our whole JCC team, like the community engagement team, works with people as young as the preschool families up to senior citizens. So it's really our goal to have an arc of engagement, whatever age and stage you're at. I'm working with teens. I try to give teens the opportunity to present ideas that they want to follow through with. So actually for the volunteer day, the idea of doing a beach cleanup in Santa Cruz came from teens that I was talking to. They thought it would be fun to do a day trip in Santa Cruz. They thought it'd be fun to go to the boardwalk. We didn't end up going to the boardwalk, but we got really good pizza and coffee, and we picked up a lot of trash at the beach and got to hang out at the beach. So I think whatever age you come to the JCC for the first time, a lot of people don't know that you don't have to be a member here. Also, Robbie, I remember when Valentino took you to the prep fellowship, I think it was towards the end, and like, you didn't have to be part of the fellowship to come and check it out. So our hope is that people will come and try a workshop, come to a concert. Sometimes the concert has absolutely nothing to do with Judaism, but it's just an offering that delights the Jewish community, and we get to be together with people who we love and care about while watching a funny show. And I think we have to remember that just being with other people inherently creates community. So we're trying to make hangouts where people can come. Quite frankly, I opened the teen lounge and wanted folks from Kahila to come over and hang out during their lunchtime. I wasn't getting huge success with that. So sometimes it's like trial and error. Like you think you have a great offering, you're like, hey, come hang out and like play pinball in the teen lounge, during your lunch break. And they're like, we would much rather sit at the cafe and, eat these chicken tenders and joke with our friends and like go play pinball. And it's fine. So then you pivot and you're like, okay, I'll do something else. But the best people to tell me what needs to be done are obviously you. So try to take that advice and those suggestions and make something out of them.
Yeah. I'm noticing that you kind of have to pivot a lot and learn from like what the youth want.
Yes.
And I was thinking like, how can someone like a youth leader like use the experience you have and kind of maybe start something of their own where they help their like other teens, or they like create a space with their other teens to make a community or something of their own if they just wanted to?
I think it's an amazing realization that sometimes if you want to do a thing, you just have to start making the phone calls, doing a brainstorm and being like, okay, I want to have a teen gathering for teens from all these different high schools. One of my teen board members, pretty much the founder of the teen board, Adam Bartov, came to me one day and said, I'm sick of people just wanting to do these social dances. I'd like to do something a little deeper. I'd like to bring Jews from different high schools together. We've had a year, we've had 2 years. Can we like come together and do something intentional? And from that thought, I said yes. And we created the Haverut conference that happened last May. And we brought in a guest speaker, Amy Albertson, who later joined the Z3 team. She's on Instagram. She's very famous if you haven't heard of her. And so she came to talk about what it's like to show up with Jewish joy online. And that gave us kind of a main dish for our gathering. And then the rest were just fun little booths that we set up. We had boba, we had bagels, we had stress ball making station, we had pillows out for people to hang out. And all of that came from an idea. It's just like, hey, can we do a thing? And from there, we got sponsorship for a Mr. Softy truck. So that's my suggestion to you. And instead of thinking that there are so many barriers to create a gathering, just think of a time where you've invited friends over to hang out. It started with one group chat where somebody was like, hey, nothing going on this weekend. Can we do something? And then it starts to come together. You just usually have to have people who are willing to like nail down the logistics. And if that's not you, find a friend who is. Maybe between the two of you, one of you is more logistics oriented, one of you is more creative oriented. Maybe you're both exactly the same. I don't think you are, but that's my advice in starting something that you want to do. You just have to kind of put one foot in front of the other and try it out. And it doesn't work. Like I hired somebody to do hand massages at that very event. Not a single hand massage was given. I was like, all right, fine. Like that's not interesting to you. No problem. We won't do that next time. Live and learn.
Yeah, I think that was like super important. I think I also remember going to the Z3 Teen Summit where we had a lot of speakers. I know there was actually a large attendance of teens. I think more than like hundreds even. So I think that's really cool to show how you've like been able to do events more small and maybe more like close and personal, and also such big events where there's large speakers as well and a lot more people there. I think that's super important. I think it just shows how the JCC is just like such a good place for Jewish teenagers to come together, meet other Jewish teenagers like themselves, maybe and bond in like a lot of different ways. And I think it's really amazing how there's just so many offerings of different things there.
Thank you. I have to say that why did the Z3 Teen Summit work? It's partnership. So there's a Z3 department that's been running this amazing annual conference for 11 years. And with their partnership, they said, we want to make something this year for teens. And so that's how it comes together, where you get the right people in the room who are like, okay, we want to make this conference. What's it going to look like? I had the blessing of having my teen board who I could bounce the ideas off of. Hey, here's a draft of the kind of workshops we want to have. What do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? So using partnerships to create an idea and then getting feedback from the audience or the population that you're actually trying to work with. It has to go both ways. And I know, Robbie, you're involved in JFCS. And I don't know if this is something like we plan to talk about, but I'll just say like much like when I was creating the Prep Fellowship and I was reaching out to JFCS was one of my partner organizations, or JCRC, I'm just going to throw out a bunch of letters, ABCD, just kidding. It's very helpful to join efforts. So you're involved in a youth program. I want you guys to also come and meet my Prep Fellows and do a workshop together. It benefits everybody. It amplifies, and that's how you get bigger numbers. We had Beged Kefet that partnered with the Z3 team to help make our attendance what it was at the first ever Teen Summit. We had over 250 teens show up and we had 300 registered. So for us, that was really exciting. And I was so happy to see both of you there too.
No, yeah, I think that's really important. Like I've seen the same thing happen, I know, especially at JFCS. Yeah, as you mentioned, we've had a partnership with Temple Bethel, and we had a lot of really young individuals come for a beach cleanup, which was really amazing, at least for me to see how even as we are still kind of teens, there's even younger individuals who are still
totally
like there's people in maybe middle school and even younger coming out and connecting with their Jewish identity. And I personally know, for me, it took, I think, a lot longer to have this connection, as it was a lot harder for me to identify as Jewish in my early life. And it's really amazing to see people so young have such a connection to their identity already.
Pretty inspiring too that you get to be the one to pass the torch, or you're not really passing the torch because you're still carrying your torch as you go forward, but to invite them to do it sooner than you got to. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, building off of that, what advice would you give parents listening to our podcast on how to educate their kids at home, like about Jewish culture in Israel? And I think that's like a really important like thing to do. As for me, my family was not too religious, but I think Judaism is more than just a religion. It's super important though, however, to still pass on religious or not.
I mean, it depends on which parents out there are readers. There are some parents who love to read every book in the self-help section. There are books written by amazing luminary Jewish leaders who have said, like, okay, this is how you raise a Jewish child. This is how you create Jewish ritual in your life. This is how you create Jewish, identity. So you can go to your local library and start there, browse the titles, get some inspiration if that's your jam. Most parents I know, especially with the little kids, are really busy. And honestly, the best way to cultivate Jewish community is to come together. It sounds like I'm just self-promoting here, but come together in an intentional space where the hard work is done for you. The programs are set up for you. The Fun Friday is set up for the little kids with the bouncy house and then the performers. And you start to meet other people and you become part of a community inherently. You don't have to be an expert on everything. You don't have to be a Jewish educator at home. You can outsource that, either putting your kid in an after-school program like we have Beged Kefed here, which is a Hebrew language learning program. There are also plenty of synagogues that have amazing Jewish education programs that, again, cultivates community. That's the whole point. I would say, data shows that if you really want your kids to have the best shot at a strong Jewish identity, there are 3 major things that you can invest in. Number 1 is sending your kids to a Jewish day school. Not viable or available for everybody, but I am an example of somebody who grew up in a Jewish day school, and obviously we've already talked about how that influenced my path without me really thinking about it actively. Number 2, let's say you don't do the Jewish day school thing, Jewish summer camp. So if it's a day camp, awesome. If it's a sleepaway camp, data shows that those are incredibly effective at building strong Jewish identities. I know they're expensive. So that can also sometimes be cost prohibitive for people. And then the third thing is sending kids on peer Israel trips when it is age appropriate. So let's say you skipped option 1, you skipped option 2, but they're still in high school. That is by far the most scalable way to get a teen to really have deep connections with other Jews. The bonding that happens on these trips over the course of 3 weeks is incredible. And so those are just, again, data points to give you about things that will help. But on the day-to-day, hanging out with other Jewish people, eating ice cream also contributes to having a Jewish identity and a sense of Jewish community.
Yeah, and also like I wanted to add like a few things that really worked for me. So I went to synagogue for like my whole life, like Sunday school, and then I became like a madrahim, so like I helped teach at Sunday school. And I also did like a bar mitzvah there and stuff like that. And my brothers also go there. And just all around it, like it brings my family together. As we like all go to the holidays and like sit in the stands together. It like really brings the spirit and the culture and everything together. And then also another thing is BBYO, which we're both in. I think that's like something I'd recommend for like all like Jewish youth because it's also like a separate kind of vibe from the JCC and like the programs that they have, which are great. But BBYO is just different because it's kind of more run by the kids. And it's not always like a program or a big event that's happening, and you can maybe just go and hang out and get food or do like a fun scavenger hunt or something like that. So those are also, cool things. And then just to further
Wait, can I say one thing about synagogue before we move on?
Yeah.
Using a little Hebrew, like in Hebrew, we call a synagogue Beit Knesset. Beit is bait, is house. Knesset is coming together. So it's a house of gathering. That's literally what the place is. And it's so wonderful to hear. I would assume that having gone there all these years and being a madrich and, having your family participate in the holidays there, it feels like a second home to you. And unfortunately, many people forget about that available resource to us. And it's smaller usually than a JCC. Our JCC is huge, but it's wonderful. The people who get to have that community, I would say, like, don't sleep on it. And it's great that your family did it. Just, I think a lot of I think there's a generation of Jewish parents who maybe didn't have positive Hebrew school education growing up, and then the whole approach to Hebrew school, Sunday school kind of shifted, and now it's like way more interactive and fun. But there's a whole generation that kind of skipped it for their own kids. So I'm glad that that didn't happen for your family.
Yeah, I think it's like a beautiful thing because I got like deja vu, and like I just felt good the other day because I heard like a Jewish song that they always sing, that like the nice rabbis sing. So I think it's really important for your identity as a Jewish
Yes.
person.
Yes.
And anyways, continuing forward, what like Jewish or just what programs and stuff are you looking forward to at the JCC for maybe people listening or for us to sign up and look into?
Well, I'm looking forward to better days in Israel. I really am passionate about helping teens get on Israel trips, again, with my Route 1 hat on, where I can help teens get a $3,000 voucher or scholarship to go on the trip that they choose. There are over 90 different trips. This summer is not necessarily the right summer for everybody. For those who are still interested in doing a youth trip experience, like last summer, there are trips to Europe, alternative trips that also are eligible for these $3,000 vouchers. So I would say if you know any teens who were thinking of going to Israel or still want to do something outside of the country with other Jewish peers, looking at one of these alternative trips, BBYO, to both of you are in them, have these BBYO passport trips that include trips to Europe with other Jewish teens. So I'm very passionate about continuing to promote that in the hopes of better days. I don't stop my work just because of what's going on right now, the sad things that are going on right now. And then I would say to continue to work with the Z3 team, to work with the ICC, which is the Israeli branch of the JCC, because they have simultaneous program. Well, the Z3, it's mostly just the Teen Summit, continuing that kind of work, but the ICC has programs for teens who are Hebrew speakers. And I'd love to see how we can open up those programs to an English-speaking audience and lean into each other's wisdom and share what we've already created, because there are some incredible programs that have kind of been dormant and are ready to come back. So one of them is called Israel for Real. And I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but those are some things that, like, we're at a new season, 3 years post this terrible tragedy for our people, of trying to renew. And I don't know exactly what my next baby will be. The prep fellowship was a beautiful baby that I created. Maybe you'll see it taking on a different form, a toddler form. I don't know. I'm going too far in this metaphor, but I'm looking forward to more like interdepartmental collaboration. And I also did just change departments. I was technically in the community engagement department, and a couple months ago I joined the youth and teens department, which you would have thought would make sense from the beginning, but that way now I know more people who I work with at this wonderful place.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I'm excited, and Robbie's probably excited too. So yeah.
We also have a new cafe. You can come just hang out at our cafe.
Awesome.
Everybody says it's really good. I mean, I have some coffee from it right now, so I do recommend.
Yeah. So, Lara, if you could leave the listeners with one message that I think they could take away from this entire episode, what would you leave them with?
You're already Jewish. It's in you. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't know enough, that you don't belong. Don't let those things be obstacles. Come on by. Come to the cookout. Join the party. It's not too late. And if you're interested in creating your own thing, I would love to hear from more teens. I mean, I am here really to kind of be in relationship with the community and so you guys said earlier, it can't be overstated how trends change, how different generational desires come up. And yes, I've been in the field for 15 years, but like that means there've been like 15 different iterations of what's important to teens and what's going on. So this is my last word, is an invitation. Please come talk to me about things that you would like to see in your community. Maybe you just need an adult to help push you along or help you structure it, or just sit and watch and be amazed by your awesomeness. So that's my last parting offer and invitation to you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much too.